There is still a lot to do before they can actually move back in, and that the municipality could have done more to help with the transition.
We now have to get in touch with the services, with the gas company, with the electric company, with the water company. We have to have ESA inspections, and the inspectors are only available every Tuesday. So again, not a lot of convenience, obviously all at our own cost again. So, the olive branch of, oh, look what we're doing is pretty tainted as far as I'm concerned. It's, you know what, you got us this far, you put us in this situation, you should have seen us through to the end, but you're not. You're bailing out. You're saying, well, we've done what we could have done. So I'm a little upset with that.
Nearly 100 households and dozens of businesses were fenced off after an apparent gas explosion destroyed a section of the downtown last August. The municipality says it will begin to move the fencing on Wednesday. For those with properties left in the new, smaller evacuation zone, the municipality says it will facilitate access as long as it's safe. A Windsor mother says it's virtually impossible for her to find a suitable place in the city for her growing family. Talisa Knuckles, her husband, and 4 children share a 2-bedroom apartment. And as Jacob Barker reports, Talisa is pregnant, and she worries their 5th child will arrive before she finds a roomier place to live.
This is Talisa Knuckles' bedroom. With another child on the way, she's trying to fit a 3rd crib in it.
This just makes it more crowded in here.
She's living on disability right now, and her husband has had trouble finding work in the restaurant industry during the pandemic. She's desperate for more space.
With me having a 5th child, it's just going to add more toys to the collection.
Knuckles says she has $1,800 to spend, but hasn't been able to find a place to rent. On the wait list for social housing, she's told it's a long wait.
And now I got to wait up to 10 to 15 years. That's a long time to stay in a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 children.
That wait list, according to the city, is about 6,000 applications deep.
The list has been growing certainly much more in the last couple of years with relations because you're seeing rents increase in the city.
Kirk Whittle says it shouldn't take 10 to 15 years, but admits housing for a large family is hard to come by.
But the bottom line is in the community, there certainly isn't enough social housing units for the demand that's needed in the community.
Special focuses on investing in housing.
In the latest federal budget, more than $4 billion is set aside to help create 100,000 new housing units in the next 5 years. And its Rapid Housing Initiative also got $1.5 billion to create at least 6,000 new housing units to help tackle homelessness. Ward Councillor Fabio Costante says they're always looking for ways to create new housing.
So government's role in this is twofold. One is to create an environment that incentivizes private developers to build more and more housings. The second piece is collaboration with upper levels of government to directly invest in social and affordable housing.
It's too much now where I can't take it anymore, where housing's not helping. No, it seems like nobody's trying to help.
So for now, the family is making do with the space they have. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
There has been a case of avian flu confirmed in our area. A duck at Point Pelee National Park has tested positive for the virus, which has killed 84,000 birds in Ontario alone this year. And as Dale Molnar reports, officials are asking for the public to keep an eye out for signs of the disease in local birds like the geese along Windsor's waterfront.
The bird that tested positive last week was a red-breasted merganser, like the one shown here. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA, confirmed the case at Point Pelee at a briefing this afternoon.
There was reports of several dozen dead birds at that location, but only one has been confirmed at this time.
The CFIA says no farm birds in Windsor, Essex have been infected so far, but there has been a case at a farm in Chatham-Kent. A control zone has been set up around the Ridgetown area. All movement of domestic birds in and out of the zone is strictly controlled and requires a permit from the CFIA. It applies to poultry products and birds. Here in Windsor, Canada geese are susceptible, but the city has no plans to relocate them. About 10 years ago, geese were relocated because they posed a safety hazard at the airport.
There is parkland in the city's south end that happens to be within the flight path of some of the runways for the airport, and There was some geese nesting in that area that were causing some concerns with the birds being within the flight path. So the airport undertook a project to have those geese relocated. That was certainly just specific to that instance and hasn't been something that has been looked at for a citywide project.
Right now, the only problem with geese is they block traffic and they leave a lot of droppings in city parks. Have you ever stepped in goose poop?
Unfortunately, yeah. Multiple times.
What do you think of that?
I wear crappy shoes for a reason now, just in case.
The city has a machine to pick up the poop, and it's been out over the past few days cleaning up. Meanwhile, Parks Canada has some tips on how to prevent the spread of the avian flu if you plan to visit Point Pelee. Never approach or handle wildlife in the park, including sick, injured, or dead birds. Never allow your pet to approach wildlife, including sick, injured, or dead birds. And never feed wild birds from your hand or try to lure birds with food or seeds. More information on the avian flu can be found on the CFIA website. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Ontario is not reimposing mandatory masking in schools or shops, despite a steep rise in COVID-19 infections. That's the word from the province's top public health doctor during his first news conference in more than a month. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the story.
Dr. Kieran Moore hasn't held an update since before Ontario's latest wave of COVID-19 began.
It is clear that we are in the sixth wave of this pandemic.
It's estimated that 100,000 people are coming down with COVID daily in this province, and this sixth wave is now expected to continue into May.
Yes, we're seeing a rise in risk, and that will be for the next probably 6 to 8 weeks that we'll have a rise in risk of transmission.
Despite that, no changes right now to Ontario's efforts to slow the spread. That includes no return to mandatory masking in schools, despite reports that infections are now spreading rapidly among students. Why not?
Individual risk is exceptionally low for hospitalization in that setting, for severe outcomes in that setting.
Ontario's mask mandate in long-term care, hospitals, and on transit is due to expire in just over 2 weeks. Moore says he's actively considering extending it. He is also strongly recommending that everybody wear masks in all indoor public places during this wave, not just those at greater risk. For some health experts, this call falls short.
You can say, I strongly recommend it as much as you want, but people still feel that it's an optional thing and perhaps not as important as it was in previous waves when it was clearly messaged that it was mandatory.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. People should be wearing masks indoors for sure at this point in time during the midst of a big sixth wave.
The Premier wants you to mask up too.
When you walk into a real crowded room, throw the mask on. No one's going to force you, but I would recommend it.
Moore says in comparison with previous waves, a lower proportion of those infected with COVID are ending up in hospital this time. And he says the number of COVID-positive patients in intensive care is expected to peak at about 600.
I still don't think we should be letting it rip through society because we have so many vulnerable people still out there.
One change announced today, the province is allowing a wider range of people to access antiviral medications if they get sick with COVID. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, in our region, another life has been lost to COVID-19, and hospitalizations are going up. The latest victim of the virus was a man in his 80s. And with respect to hospitalizations, there are currently 61 patients, 2 in intensive care. And 2 weeks ago, there were only 38 people who were hospitalized. The mayor of Mariupol says more than 10,000 civilians have died in the Ukrainian city under the Russian siege. He also accuses Russian troops of using mobile cremation equipment to dispose of the bodies strewn all over the city. Meanwhile, Russia's war on Ukraine, now more than 6 weeks long, appears to be entering a critical phase. Moscow claims its forces have destroyed several Ukrainian air defense systems. Russia has been trying to take control of Ukrainian airspace as its forces have made limited gains since the invasion started. The Pentagon says Russian forces are gearing up to renew their offensive in the eastern region of Donbass. And the humanitarian crisis triggered by the war is also getting worse. A UN agency estimates that 2/3 of all the children have fled their homes. And the World Bank says Ukraine's economy is expected to shrink by more than 45% this year because of the war. The first round of voting in France's presidential election is over. Incumbent Emmanuel Macron and his far-right rival Marine Le Pen are heading to a second-round runoff. Macron won 27.8% of the vote in the first round, while Le Pen won 23.1%. The leaders also came out on top in the first round of the 2017 presidential election. But polls suggest the runoff could be much tighter this time. Macron, a centrist, intends to increase the retirement age, and that plan has cost him some voter support, as has steep inflation. Le Pen, an anti-immigration nationalist, has won support by focusing on issues related to the cost of living. Now, anti-fascist activists took to the streets of Rennes overnight to denounce the election results. They destroyed street furniture and smashed windows before lighting a fire in the city's central square. The runoff vote is scheduled for April 24th. Pakistan's parliament has elected a new prime minister after a political crisis led to Imran Khan being ousted on the weekend. Shehbaz Sharif, an opposition lawmaker until yesterday, narrowly won a majority vote.
कोई और नुस्खा कारगर नहीं साबित हो सकता मासवाए इत्तेहाद 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 मेहनत मेहनत और मेहनत के
Sharif said that only unity and hard work can save the nation from sinking like a boat. The new leader will have to deal with high inflation and an energy crisis that hobbled the previous government. Yesterday, Khan lost a non-confidence vote after being deserted by his party allies. Supporters of the former cricket player have vowed to return him to power. During the pandemic, Khan earned international praise for steering his country through COVID-19 outbreaks. But he's had a strained relationship with Pakistan's army, which has ruled the country for more than half of its 75-year history. Back to local news now. St. Clair College is thrilled the province has just announced that it will let colleges establish 3-year degree programs. Officials call it, quote, a truly historic improvement to post-secondary education. Before, degrees could only be granted for 4-year programs. The province will also let colleges offer more degree programs than before. The cap will be raised by 5% at all public colleges. The goal is to offer more training in key sectors to address skills gaps in the economy, like in the auto sector in particular, around electric, autonomous, and connected vehicles. Poetry and Windsor's waterfront, the two things that helped Skylar Kay document her journey so far as a trans woman. She spoke to us about her new book titled Transcribing Moonlight. It chronicles her coming out story and her struggle with self-love.
Walking through Windsor, I question the conversion rate of magpies to squirrels, of Rocky Mountains to Detroit rivers, of my size 11 footsteps to sidewalk cracks.
I find myself drawn to nature. Like the changes of the season, I find soothing. I know that the idea of transience, something's coming and then it goes. You can't hold on to everything, but there's always this sense that it might come back.
I'd always wear like bows in the hair and like really like nice clothes, cardigans, cute stuff like that. And now I'm like, I'm just gonna throw on like a grunge t-shirt and a flannel, because that's always how I wanted to dress. But when I started, I was like, I look like a lumberjack, and now I'm like, I look like a lumberjack, bring it on. So it's finding that level of comfort, I think, comes with time, and those questions have subsided. Tonight, under the crescent moon, there is nothing heteronormative about me. There never was. That's the best part. Watch me with queer glances in the women's room. Clock me when I buy a pair of skinny jeans. Judge me from behind those doors of compulsory normativity. I'll be on the outside, dancing with my girlfriends in the super gay moonlight in an inherently feminine way, because, after all, I am still a woman. I haven't allowed myself feelings for women for years, intimidated by their voices' natural lilt, their partnership with the moon, their effortless movements that took me years to remember. Shoulders back, walk with your hips. Could I really lay next to a woman and feel equal, feel myself? Would my frame not expand in the moonlight, dwarf hers, remind me that we are inherently not the same? Country road, still just straight. I shuffle the playlist.
I'm 5'11", like I'm not exactly a petite woman. It was always hard for me trying to find clothes that fit me both this way and this way. I used to be a lot skinnier. And it was hard to find clothes that fit me, and I was like, I can't even find women's clothes that fit me right. Like, this is so discouraging. Like, there's this body dysmorphia. You have to build up the courage to go out shopping for that kind of thing in the first place, because you're gonna get looks. My poetry, for me anyways, was a kind of way to work through some of that, assert a sense of femininity regardless of how others view me.
That's beautiful. Skylar Kay began writing haibun about 3 years ago. It's a style of poetry that was created in Japan. And her new book of poems, Transcribing Moonlight, will be available starting April 30th at bookstores near you. Let's take a live look outside there at that bridge. Gray skies right now, but we did have another double-digit day. We will have your weather right after the break. Stay with us. Now, we do not have Colette with us today, but not to worry, we still have your local weather. We had a beautiful day earlier with temperatures above seasonal, and many got outside to enjoy it, some taking advantage of some time on the Detroit River there. Now, the weather has since taken a bit of a turn to the grayer side of things. We've had a bit of rain, a bit of drizzle throughout the day. And we do have a mixed bag over the next few days as well. So let's take a look at the 3-day forecast. We did have a high of 19 degrees today, and we can expect some on and off rain tonight with a low of 4 degrees. Tomorrow, the sun will make a reappearance with a daytime high of 16 degrees and a low of 9. And then on Wednesday, the cloud cover returns, bringing with it some showers. But it's not all bad, because check out the daytime high there of 22 degrees, much higher than normal for this time of year. And the low for Wednesday, also not too bad, 11 degrees. And when we come back, we go to Eastern Ontario, where maple syrup is flowing. Stay with us. The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall are going to visit Canada next month. Their 3-day visit will be their first trip here in 5 years. They will travel to Newfoundland and Labrador and the Northwest Territories, as well as the Ottawa region. CBC's Ellen Morrow has the details from London.
The tour is part of the broader celebrations marking the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. Clarence House says the couple is looking forward to their visit, and we've had reaction from Ottawa today as well. In a statement, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau writing, during their visit, they will have the wonderful opportunity of seeing firsthand the diversity and kindness of Canadians and the beauty of our abundant natural landscape that make us proud to call our country home. We've also heard from Governor General Mary Simon, who released a statement saying, "This visit is a chance for us to showcase the evolution of our country, our diverse and inclusive society, as well as the resilience of our Indigenous communities." This is a tour to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, but royal tours are also used as a way of trying to gin up good feelings and support toward the royal family. But it doesn't always work out that way. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, William and Kate, recently toured the Caribbean, where there are efforts underway in several of the countries they visited to remove the Queen as head of state over Britain's brutal colonial legacy. That visit was seen as an attempt at a charm offensive, but parts of the tour were criticized as tone deaf, and there were some protests. Clarence House will be expecting and hoping that Charles and Camilla's tour of Canada next month will go much smoother. This will be Prince Charles' 19th trip to the country. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, London.
And unfortunately, we ran out of time in order to bring you that maple syrup story, but we're going to do that for you tomorrow. So that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/Windsor. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night.